Christ is risen. I have taken the last couple of Sundays to share with you the joy and experience and inspiration that some of us here at the church witness every week in working with our young people. The last couple of Sundays we have had our own participants in the St. John Chrysostom Oratorical Festival offer their speeches. And today, this morning, I have two young men who will do the same, Nectarios Delis and Yanni Chironis. They are not invisible.
Reverend Father, ladies and gentlemen, Christos Anesti.
Alithos Anesti.
What is humility? Is it low self-regard? A sense of unworthiness? Meekness? Modesty? According to Google, it is all of these things. Google, along with new AI technologies such as ChatGPT, have become our societal barometer for everything. From school research, to travel destinations, to medical advice, this is where we have been trained to turn. This leads to misconceptions about humility and how we are supposed to live it. As Orthodox Christians, we are called to seek the one source that comes from God Himself, the Bible. In Proverbs chapter 22, verse 4, it states, "Humility and fear of the Lord bring wealth and honor and riches." This reveals to us the rewards of true humility. To achieve humility, you must forgo many things. What about credit, identity, achievements, social status? Humility is difficult for us because we live in a world that is obsessed with attention. Our achievements are what move us forward in life, and being humble seems to restrain us from reaching our goals. But does it really hold us back? In my class last year, whenever I would get an A on a test, I would have my paper face up. I wanted everyone to know that I had an A because I worked hard to get it. A friend of mine would always turn his paper face down and not show it to anyone. When people asked him questions about his test, he was always vague about what score he got, saying, "It was okay." This continued for the remainder of the school year. By the end of the school year, he and I were both awarded the honor roll certificate. Humility didn't hold my classmate back, but instead enabled him to achieve the same thing I did in a more humble way. Even though my classmate and I achieved the same reward on earth, my classmate surpassed me on the spiritual journey to salvation. Pride is what blinded me from doing the right thing in that moment, and pride is one of the many reasons why being humble is so difficult. Pride has become a part of our everyday vernacular. We promote it through conscious and subconscious actions. Terms like "I'm proud of you" and "proud of who I am" are commonly heard in conversation. My yaya doesn't like to use the word proud. Instead, she uses the words humbly proud. This reminds me that although I have accomplished something, I can always remember that God helped me along the way to achieve it. One of the most striking examples of humility is that of my own saint, Saint Nectarios. When a janitor fell ill at a school of theology and faced poverty and unemployment, Saint Nectarios, a bishop at the time, did the janitor's work in secret, even scrubbing the floor and cleaning toilets so the janitor wouldn't lose his job. Later on, an archbishop came to the monastery in Aegina and found Nectarios outside gardening, and he criticized him for doing work that was demeaning to a bishop. In this case, the archbishop was caught up in clergy status and didn't follow Christ's teachings like St. Nectarios did. But there is no greater example than an act of humility than when Jesus became man and saved us all by dying on the cross. When we are faced with his decisions about acting with pride and ego, we should recall his suffering and choose to stay grounded for God's glory. Now more than ever, on our journey to great and holy Pentecost, Jesus' sacrifices should be at the forefront of our minds. His humility should serve as a reminder to eliminate our earthly desires for attention and recognition in the hopes of a greater eternal reward. Thank you.
Father Peter, ladies and gentlemen, Christos anesti. Today I speak to you about the sacrament of confession. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. John chapter 8, verse 7. As children and even as adults, we may have heard this phrase from the Bible before, but have we really ever stopped to think about what it means? If we take the time to pause and reflect, this passage tells us that only those who are faultless have the right to pass judgment upon others. This quote implies that no one is free from making a mistake, a wrong decision, or a sin, and therefore no one has such a right to pass judgment upon others. It is the sin, after all, that separates man from God. Knowing that we as humans, even as dedicated Orthodox Christians, we are not free from sins, we must understand how we can atone for them. The sacrament of Holy Confession has always been integral in preparing for Holy Communion in the Orthodox Christian Church. But what is confession? What is its purpose? Confession is the public or private acknowledgments of one's sins and the desire for forgiveness for that sin. There are two parts to the sacrament of Holy Confession. First, the Bible tells us that confession provides the assurance of forgiveness according to the words of Christ. John chapter 20, verse 23. Second, through the sacramental act of the ordained priest and the Christian believer, Holy Confession provides the opportunity to discuss your deep concerns, receive sage counsel, and encouragement to grow spiritually. In my life as a 12-year-old boy, I can admit that I too am not free from sins. My mistakes can take the shape of being disrespectful to my parents, treating my siblings poorly, or just making a decision to do something I know is wrong at the time, sometimes putting myself above others' feelings. Knowing my truths, and better yet, admitting my truths, has led me to become a better Christian. It has allowed me to acknowledge my sins, and I can say that in doing so, I felt like a huge weight had been taken off my back. I felt the power of true forgiveness from God. Through the sacrament of confession, something I've learned the importance of both as a Greek Orthodox Christian and teachings of our church, and also as a student who attends a faith-based Catholic middle school. I've been raised to realize I can admit to my wrongdoing and I can still recover and grow from my mistakes. When you admit the truth of your faults to God and move forward with better decision-making, you can walk in the light of God's forgiveness. If there is one thought I wish to leave you with, it is to remember that the Holy Sacrament of Confession is our opportunity as Christians to grow spiritually, renew our faith, our values, our priorities, and to thank God for all He has blessed us with. I thank you today for your time. Thank you.
I thank Yanni and I thank Nectarius, as I have thanked the other previous speakers the last 2 weeks for their courage to get up in front of the congregation, but more importantly, for their accepting of the challenge to put their thoughts in writing and participate in the Oratorical Festival. This Archdiocesan Festival is held every year, and every parish in the Archdiocese is encouraged to have our young people, junior high and high school, participate. At Holy Cross, we also add an additional layer with our young people in elementary school to, without competition, to come forward and to also put their thoughts on paper. It is remarkable to hear from the mouths of babes this true wisdom that comes by way of the Holy Spirit. I pray that we continue to encourage our young people to not only participate in the faith, to participate in the services, to strengthen their faith by participation, but also to encourage others, their peer group members, to participate. in as many activities as possible here at the church. I also wish to thank the parents, the grandparents, and their teachers in Sunday school for encouraging our young people to place their thoughts on paper, to write these beautiful speeches, and to deliver them. Even though it is in competition, it also adds a layer of importance to what they have done. May God bless and keep them all in good health. Please stand.